A lot of people ask the question, why, if Killer Instinct was so popular and everybody loved it, why did it die? That's a great question. It's honestly a really good question because it just was done. I would love to say that there was an extremely poignant answer to it, but there wasn't really. There seemed to be just a lot of questioning, I guess that's it? I guess we're finished? Type of thing. And even I never got a concrete answer. However, there was something else that was happening right at the same time of Killer Instinct's development at the end of 2017. Phil Spencer had been the running Microsoft executive for a little while now, for a couple years, and he took it over from completely different management before, right? So Xbox was changing. I think the thing everyone needs to realize about Killer Instinct, especially Killer Instinct Season 1 and 2 and 3 and the way the game worked, Killer Instinct was a little XBLA game. I don't even know if many people remember that term, the Xbox Live Arcade. It's essentially from the Xbox 360 era, which was a space for a lot of smaller projects and a lot of indie games which show up on XBLA. And that's what Killer Instinct was. From the very beginning, it was a little XBLA game that they sort of pumped out in less than a year. At least the first 6 characters of KI and their stages. From what I know, a lot of the people that were at Xbox that were responsible for making Killer Instinct even a possibility did it through the Xbox Live Arcade division. They just wanted to fill out the library of what would eventually become the Xbox One's launch, and they were XBLA dudes. Whenever I went to Microsoft's headquarters, we were always in the Xbox Live Arcade offices. So there's a pretty important thing that happens around 2016 to 2017 in Microsoft's past. XBLA is gone. The actual division that runs Xbox Live Arcade was completely disbanded, and XBLA ended up not being a thing anymore. A lot of the people that worked on KI were essentially moved to other projects. They went to completely different areas. So for anybody that's oh man, what happened to Killer Instinct? What's going on with the game? Well, essentially it boiled down to, is there going to be any funding for another season? Is there going to be another season that finishes up, maybe go to season 4? Is that going to happen? No, it didn't. It didn't, because they were gone. It seemed like suddenly Iron Galaxy was super down to do more stuff, and then, all of a sudden it just was over. The people that were running that side of the Microsoft division had essentially had to move on because Microsoft was restructuring. They were essentially turning into the Xbox that you see today. So a lot of the managerial things that came with all the approval processes and getting that stuff done at Microsoft was essentially, from what it seemed like, had to move on. So if there was going to be anything more of Killer Instinct in the future, it would have to come in a completely different facet. KI would not be an XBLA game anymore. It wouldn't be a small title. It would have to go through a completely different division of Microsoft in order to make it a thing. From my understanding, that's what happened to KI. That's where there was a big disconnect of if so many people were playing KI and were buying stuff and it was going so well, why did they stop? Well, because there was a huge change. There was a huge change, and there was only one XBLA game that was technically still up and cooking and had continued to get development support almost 4 years after its release, and it was Killer Instinct. No other XBLA game would continue to get that much support from that division of Microsoft. Everything else would come out, it would get a patch, and that'd be it, even if it was a multiplayer game. KI was the only one to actually create seasons and stuff like that. Stayed around for way longer than anyone expected it to, and continued to make money, and people kept playing it, and then eventually just kind of got phased out because there was no more XBLA division. This was one of the whole reasons why I wanted to bring back KI a big talking point, was because, man, Killer Instinct might just get forgotten because it was just an XBLA game. And oh yeah, it's just an XBLA game. I think there's a lot of people that love this stuff, and they don't care if it was an XBLA game or not. I think there's still definitely an audience for Killer Instinct.